policy?
Hey, this is Sports Slaw with Lomas Brown, the pro.
And Deb Schneider, I'm the prof. And together, we're the pro and the prof. Hey, Lomas, happy birthday.
Thank you, Deb. Hey, yeah.
We've got 2 birthdays.
There he is, producer extraordinary, Ray,
Yep.
in the background.
Oh, yeah.
You say you miss John Lennon, huh?
I miss John Lennon. But anyways, happy birthday to you.
Thank
March
you.
30th.
Yes.
58 years old.
Yes, the big 5'8", Deb.
5'8". You made it. That's awesome.
That's right.
And happy birthday to us at Sports Law. We started April 1st, which I still think was a joke on our producer's part. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, man, that a year, like you said a little earlier, this COVID year, everything that's going on. And we started back then. Remember our big plans that we had to get together. We bought all this equipment and we were supposed to meet in your basement and do all these things. Then COVID struck and it just took us in another direction. But it's been a great direction. I think, like you always say, it's been better for us. We've been able to get so many people that we might not have been able to get on the Sports Law. So I think it's been a good thing for us.
I think so too. I think while of course we wouldn't want we're not COVID fans, shall we say? But it really has changed the world in a lot of ways. And we've been able to pivot and get some absolutely fabulous guests that we wouldn't have otherwise. And although you and I haven't seen each other much in a year in person,
right.
I think we've got some good content.
Yes, we do. Episode 44 we're working on right now. And man, Deb, so many things have changed now. You know, you got so much big news that has happened over the course of this year, but it just seems like a lot of that big news has just been taking place recently. But it's a lot of things that are going on. We're probably going to get fans back, you know, in the stadium, which, you know, I think as a former ball player, I know the ball players appreciate that because they just bring so much to the game. And me as an announcer, I know the juice that they give you even announcing the game. So, you know, it'll be so welcome to see the fans back in the stands.
Right. And opening day in baseball today. I mean, let's start with that. Opening day, we had fans in the stands anywhere. I was looking it up. 12% capacity to 100% capacity. That was Texas. Texas Rangers had 100% capacity. We've had now Dr. Fauci, most of them seem to be between 20 and 30% capacity. And Dr. Fauci was on the news, did a big interview today and said he thought 20% was good as long as you wore your mask, social distance, you were outside. So he was good. But we all know Dr. Fauci is a huge baseball fan.
Yes. Well, we know they like to do it big in Texas. So I'm not shocked that they had 100% there. But, you know, that's really kind of crossing the line right now, Deb. I mean, you don't have all your I'm quite sure, like, I know the Yankees, they took precaution and all their fans had to be vaccinated and they had to show proof of it before they were able to go inside Yankee Stadium. And I'm not quite sure that was the rule that was set forth by the Texas Rangers over in Texas, but to have 100,000, or I'm sorry, to have it at 100% capacity, that's taking some big risks, you know, people leaving there and going back to their loved ones and traveling and doing all the things, not only risk to the people in the stands, but even the players on the field. So that was a big risk for Texas to take.
Right. And the Houston Astros had 50% capacity. So that was better. But of course, on the flip side of that, the Mets and Nationals game was postponed because of COVID. One of the players tested positive for COVID, and through contact tracing, they had to postpone the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely a mixed bag. Of course, it snowed in Detroit, but we
Oh,
won.
yes, that was the great news. And man, we had to hang on to win there. At one point, I'm
Yep.
looking up, it's 3-0 our favor. Next thing I look up, it's 2-3, and we're just barely hanging in there. But like you say, the most important thing is we got the W today. Way to go, Tigers.
Yeah. Undefeated.
That's right.
Undefeated. Hopefully I'll be able to say that for a few more days.
Yes, that would be nice, but yeah, but the fans, the 8 or so thousand fans, they still turned out. They were loud out there today. They braved the cold, like you say, because they did get snow flurries there, and the guys put on a great performance for the fans that went there. So it was just so different though, because we're used to having crowds downtown
Right.
and just hanging out before the game. And of course, our Mayor Duggan told the fans to kind of stay away, not to congregate like the normal first day of baseball would be. So that was kind of different for us back here in Detroit.
Right. I know a few years ago you were at a big opening day party.
Yes, I
And,
remember that. It was people everywhere, Deb. I mean, it was people had been there since early that morning. I didn't get there
right.
till around the afternoon, and people had been there. They talking about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, taking in on the festivities, which we know that's probably the biggest day of the year here for baseball is opening day.
Absolutely.
It's such a big tradition. With our fans here. And, it's such a big event for the city of Detroit, bringing in revenue from a lot of the suburbans that come in and watch the game. So it's a huge event for us. And I'm just happy we were able to have some fans there.
Right. It looks like we're going for the full season. Major League Baseball is going for the full season. We've got some rules changes, but we'll have our games. We'll see how capacity is after we get everybody vaccinated. We're moving forward on that vaccination.
Yeah. Almost at 100 million, Deb. I think it was like 99 million people throughout have been vaccinated. So that's a good sign. President Biden said that in this first 100 days, he wanted to get, I think, 100 million people vaccinated. So they seem to be a little ahead of schedule, I think. I don't think it's been 100 days yet.
I think they're going for the 200 million now.
Okay.
That would be great. And the vaccines are coming out that they're very, very effective. And, even effective with the younger kids, the 12 to 15-year-olds. If that happens, we have open schools.
Yeah, that's the scary part, though, Deb. It's gone from us older people to now they're warning all the young people now that they need to get vaccinated because it's spiking in our younger kids now. So, it's very important that if you're a young kid, teenager, that you go out and take advantage of getting vaccinated when it's your time to do it, because they're seeing a rise in the cases with younger folks.
Right. And just, shout out to Michigan. We have the highest rate in the country right now.
Wow.
So
why, Dale? Why?
They don't really know. It started in a ski resort. But let's just everybody be careful, social distance, wear your mask. Even if you are vaccinated, be careful out there.
Yeah.
So
I actually heard that they just found the first case of a new variant here too.
Yes.
Was that, I think, might have been a Beaumont hospital. So, now we got to deal with that. So it's just a lot of things going on. And like you say, we just have to do our due diligence. We've gone so long, trying to stay closed in and trying to do the right thing. We don't want to go in reverse. We want to try to keep moving ahead as much as we can. So hopefully everybody keep wearing their mask and keep doing the right thing.
Yep. So 1 year later, we're still talking COVID, but let's move on to the NFL.
Oh yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Know anything about that one?
Yeah, they got so much going on there, good and bad.
Yes.
I mean, did you see the $10 billion TV deal that they just signed? $10 billion a year. Yes. And then even Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he got in on it. And now the Thursday night game, which you used to be able to see on TV, I think the only way you might be able to see that is if it's on, if you do streaming, live streaming. I think Amazon or Amazon Prime will be the only one carrying the Thursday night game. So it's a lot of things happening, not just on the field, but even in the media with the NFL, how live streaming is just becoming so much more popular now.
It's amazing how media rights have changed over the years. I mean, it used to just be radio, and now we're calling this live streaming. And the NFL really held out. I mean, they set the bar for negotiation of broadcast rights. Absolutely set the bar.
Yeah, they did.
And they doubled what they were asking, and they got it.
Yes.
So I think everybody else is going to be chasing that right now. Every league.
Well, you know, the counterpoint that is that they added another game,
yes,
the NFL to the season, which helped them achieve that milestone revenue that they are going to get from the media. And, you know, Deb, that's a good thing for the fans. That's a good thing for the organizations. But for the players, I just know it's going to be tough on the guys. Adding another game it's brutal. It really is. I mean, you know, it's going to shorten some careers. Then, you know, the average NFL career right now is 3.4 years, and you have to expect that to go down with them adding another game, even though they've taken away one of the preseason games. But adding another regular season game, there's a lot more pressure they're going to put on guys. There's a lot more stress that's going to have to go on your body, a lot more preparation that's going to have to go into the season. And who I feel it might affect is the teams that continue on, meaning the teams that get in the playoffs that have had to play that one extra game. Then they have to start the playoff season, you know, in their route to trying to get to the Super Bowl. So, you know, it's a bittersweet thing. The NFL got what they wanted. The fans got what they wanted, but I just don't know if the players got what they needed.
Right. But remember that this was also negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement.
Yes.
We have a new 11-year collective bargaining agreement. And it was highly controversial, and barely passed. I mean, it was almost 50-50.
Yes.
But it was negotiated for. It was definitely part of the negotiations. I understand that the pay is going to be, well, we've gone to 18-week season. Now the pay is still there. There's no difference in pay. But this is all part and parcel of getting that huge contract, that huge television contract, or shall I say media rights contract. Yeah.
But I think what you said is important. It just barely passed.
Yes.
And that's because you got probably 1,800 guys in the league. You got the older guys versus the younger guys. You know, and that's the thing about football, where it falls at, where the line falls at. You have the veterans that are established, that have made their means. Then you got the young guys that are trying to make what the veterans are getting, or trying to at least get to the point where they could get a second contract. And that's where I think kind of the disconnect comes in at. And Deb, if you think about it, each team has a rep. So it was really 32 guys that really voted for, you know, the 1,800 or so odd guys in the league. So that's where you get a little of the controversy, especially with a lot of the players. But yeah, it passed. You're right. It did pass.
It did pass. So, and that's for the next 11 years.
Yeah.
So that's going to change a lot of careers. It's going to be different, because there's no way you can say a regular season game is akin to a preseason game.
No.
And that was the quid pro quo.
Exactly. You're exactly right about that.
Really. So yeah. So we have a lot going on there. And then I got to talk name, image, likeness.
Yeah. Yes.
I absolutely have to talk about that. Probably one of the biggest weeks in sports law from a collegiate standpoint. I'm pivoting from football to football.
Yeah, that's
But
all
name,
right.
image, likeness heard by the Supreme Court on Wednesday morning. And if anybody's interested, they can actually get on the supremecourt.gov site and listen to the oral arguments. Being a little bit of a Supreme Court nerd, it was really fascinating to me. some of the arguments, but I think I was shocked in listening to them, thinking that perhaps the athletes are going to win.
Yeah, that hallelujah for a change. The guys win, the athletes win, and
Well, we
you're
don't know
right.
yet, June or July.
Yeah, but it's going, like you said, it's just going to change the landscape of football forever. Yep. It could very easily change the competitive landscape of it, but it's definitely going to change the landscape of how some of these guys choose their schools. Some of the benefits that they're going to receive from the name, image, and likeness being put in place. And we'll see, right? Because wouldn't it be California and Florida? Wouldn't they be one of the first couple of states to come on doing that? So it could give those two states a competitive advantage over some of the other states, getting some of the big time recruits to come there, because they'll be able to make some money off their name, image, and likeness.
Well, we've already seen some of that. California was the first one to introduce a statute and pass it, but the effective date is not until, I believe, 2023. But Florida is the first one, and that's supposed to become effective this summer. And once that happens, and now I believe Oregon has passed another piece of legislation, because they want to compete and they know they have to compete. So you have the Supreme Court that heard the arguments. Most likely, the Supreme Court is going to give a very narrow decision. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say unanimous decision for the athletes, in terms of, we have to look at it from a rule of reason analysis from the antitrust standpoint, and remand it back down to the lower courts. Meanwhile, you have 30 some states that have introduced or passed legislation on name, image, likeness.
Yes.
And they are all across the board. I mean, there's a definite difference between, the Republican versus the Democratic states, and how this is rolling out. And then, of course, we have the NCAA, who while I think last week we talked about the fact that they kind of threw up their hands, I don't think they really want to abdicate all responsibility for this.
Yeah, no, they want to leave it in the court's hand. They want the legislation to really bail them out. I think it's a bailout by them, and they were late to the party. To me, the NCAA was late to the party, like they've been late to a lot of other parties on a lot of other subjects that we'll get into tonight. And, again, that I think that's what stems the talk about, will there be a NCAA, or will some of your bigger schools, your Power 5 schools, break away and start their own sort of, say, league, where they're keeping the revenue and doing some of the things that they want to be able to control because of the NCAA. A lot of the rules they got a lot of antiquated rules, so it's just a lot of things that you have to put up with. And I just think some of the leadership at the NCAA level isn't where it needs to be at this particular time. I think some of them, their time is come and gone.
Well, just looking at name, image, likeness, this is not a new thing. Name, image, likeness has been out there. I mean, we had an endorsement case with Jeremy Bloom back in 2004. We've had a number. Oh, and there's the Supreme Court.
Okay.
But we've had a number of these cases, and the NCAA has had a great 50-year run from their standpoint. What they didn't do, as you said, they're late to the party, in that they didn't recognize they had to do something. Had they done something, perhaps we wouldn't be in this situation.
I agree, Dan. I agree 100%.
But and the whole thing is really amateurism versus exploitation of athletes. And if we keep the amateurism, because we're trying to keep that line between a professional athlete and an amateur athlete, and that's what the NCAA is saying. We want our students to be student athletes, not athletes.
Yeah. But it's funny how you say you use the word student athlete, right?
Yes.
So student athlete, that doesn't define the gender, does it? It's a student athlete. And so if you got student athletes, it seems like all of them should be treated the same. In my mind, Deb, if you're a student athlete, whether you're male or female, you should be treated the same. And as we know, as we witness, it's not that way with the NCAA. They treat women athletes totally different than they do the men athletes. And that's not right. And I'm glad it's been brought up. I'm glad it's out there so people can make their own judgment on it. But it's been terrible how the women athletes have been treated compared to the men athletes.
Well, let's look at that. Obviously, we're talking March Madness at this point.
Yes.
However, we're only talking March Madness if we're talking about the male basketball tournament. We're talking about the women's championship if we're talking about the women's. Even though the NCAA has the trademark for March Madness for both men and women, they market it differently.
Yes.
And I think it was Sedona Prince from University of Oregon who use social media.
That's right.
Use social media wisely.
Yes. Yeah. She brought it to light, Deb. Deb, some of the pictures, again, I told you a little earlier, when they showed the picture of what the men were eating compared to what the women were getting to eat, it's just despicable that's to that point there. The weight rooms, the facilities, even the swag bags, what the women get compared to the men is just unbelievable. And again, you know, we've always talked about, or they've always talked in the past about, you know, the days that the women play on. Yeah, that's different. We know that it's all these different venues. So we know scheduling hadn't been a problem, but all the other things, that shouldn't have been a problem. There shouldn't have been a difference in what women are getting compared to what the men are receiving.
Absolutely. And just to catch everybody up on this, the weight room, the women had a rack of weights. The men had a beautiful, fully equipped room. And then when Sedona Prince put that out there on social media, and each of them is in a bubble. And of course, it came out that they didn't have enough room for the women. So
right.
Showed how much room they had.
Exactly.
And in a couple days, the women also had a beautiful weight room, complete with pink uplighting.
Yes.
But that still doesn't cover the swag. That doesn't cover the meals.
Right.
And, you know, we've got all kinds of issues. But one of the things, and I was talking about this in class tonight, Title IX doesn't apply to the NCAA. Title IX being that you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex in any organization receiving federal funds. Title IX doesn't get federal funds. So it doesn't apply. Now, in 1992, the NCAA came out and said that they would treat the genders equally. I'm going to tell everybody, watch the video.
Yeah. You can see it for yourself. I mean, yeah. And you know, I listened to Gino Auriemma, the head coach from Connecticut, women's team. He says this has been a problem for years. This is nothing new. This has been a problem for years. And he's been a coach at Connecticut for a long time, back with Pat Summitt, because I always kind of correlate Title IX with Pat Summitt, because I remember when they were talking about it and when they came out with it, and she was one of the strong figureheads for that. So I always kind of relate it back to her. But this has been going on for a while, and for the NCAA to just ignore them or choose not to do anything or address the problem, you know, is just sinister, you know?
Yeah. Well, remember, Title IX is not an athletic statute. It is an educational statute. So it's been applied to sports. And we talked about this when we talked about our women in sports. It's been applied to sports and each institution. So while Title IX does not have any applicability to the NCAA, it has applicability to all of the NCAA institutions. And that's where we really need to see that change and to see the NCAA mandate and actually follow through on treating women's sports the same as they treat men's sports.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with you. So hopefully we'll see that. I mean, hopefully we could keep our sports, especially the women's sports, keep them going strong. And, again, we know that colleges are so affected by attendance. People coming, that affects their bottom line so much more than it does the professional leagues. So hopefully, again, with the testing and different things and people getting the vaccination, getting vaccinated, hopefully we'll be able to put people in the stands and they won't be able to have an excuse there, because I can see excuses coming, with why we can't fund this program or why we can't continue to have this women's program because of the funding. I could see the excuses coming.
Well, remember that Title IX also allows, while we're supposed to treat the sexes the same, Title IX does allow for men's programs to be subtracted in order to get a proportionately equal number of opportunities for the men and the women at a university. So Title IX doesn't just mean that we're going to treat the women the same or that we're going to give them the same opportunities. It could as easily, and this has been shown for years, that men's programs have been cut. And when you throw Title IX in with the whole COVID and the normal revenue issues that every school goes through, a lot of times it's not an expansion of women's programs or even treating them the same. It is a subtraction for men's programs. And we've just seen that. I mean, we saw that in 2018 at Eastern Michigan. We've seen that all over through COVID.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It really is. But again, when you talk about the name, image, and likeness, I mean, I want to see how that dynamic plays out. I really do. Once it's in full bloom, I want to see how that dynamic plays out, because again, that applies not just to football. Am I correct? No. That would be every NCAA athlete. Exactly right. Yeah.
And don't forget, we have the NAIA too, which has its own set of rules. So any sanctioning body is going to be dealing with this name, image, likeness thing.
Yeah.
And that is as simple. It could be as complex as one of the major Adidas, Nike, Reebok cutting a deal with a particularly great star athlete, or as simple as one of the women tennis players running a camp in her hometown, or an influencer on social media. And doesn't necessarily mean it has to go to the stars.
Right. Well, that's good.
It is good.
I like that. I truly like that, because again, I played offensive line. So I want to see how much love the offensive linemen get compared to those skill position guys. And you're right. I mean, it should permeate down to every sport, the wrestlers, everybody. It should permeate down. I agree with you.
Well, it's going to, and I think we're going to be really surprised to see who actually makes money on this name, image, likeness.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it just seemed like so many things have just happened over the past months or so that can affect sports moving forward for years. And just in our time, just this year long that we've been doing our podcast, and just some of the many subjects that we've covered there. Just think about some of the people and some of the subjects that we've talked about, from broadcasting, how that has changed and everything, from some of our doctors who we talked to that really kind of progressed how this COVID situation was going to go along. I mean, we've had some interesting guests and some interesting topics that we've covered on the show.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've hit just about all the sports.
Mm-hmm.
We've, I love our Women in Sports series also,
Yes.
Title IX. I love talking with Dawn Riley. Can't wait to talk. I am so looking forward to talking to one of the women basketball players once we finish this tournament. And by the way, shout out to my Cardinal. So.
Yeah, hey, that's right. She has on the logo too.
Got my logo
Yeah.
wear on. Yep. Yeah. We're going to get there.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. And that my thing is, are things going to go back to pre-COVID? Are we going to get back that meaning when we talked about broadcasting? How they found a new way of broadcasting because they've had so many people doing it remotely. Is that the new way? Instead of traveling the whole crew, will you be able to do it from wherever you are because of technology and some of the different things that we're able to do right now? Will we ever get back to full capacity crowds? Will Michigan Stadium ever see 100,000 people back in there again? The way it once was, just you talked about this, I think one episode about some of the stadiums, how will they be built from this point on? Will they be building 100,000 seat stadiums or, will they lessen that and they're smaller stadiums, the transfer portal, just so many different things that now are different than they were a year ago.
Absolutely. And, like we said at the beginning, some of this is for the good and some of this may not be. Mm-hmm. It's always been a race to rush to smaller seats. It's always been a race to pack more people in. I will say, I don't know that I've ever really truly sat at the Michigan Stadium. I'm kind of squished in there sideways.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine doing that right now.
Right. I can't either, Deb. I can't imagine that either. You're right about that. I mean, will they let reporters back in the locker rooms or will interviews now be done virtually full time? You're right. I mean, how often are the athletes going to be tested? We know some of them were getting tested every day. Is that something that's going to continue? And yeah, it's just a lot of unknowns right now that's changed the landscape of a lot of things.
It certainly has. And, I think from a business standpoint, I would guess that we're going to see a lot of broadcasts being done remotely. Mm-hmm. We all know what our houses look like by now. There are no secrets left anywhere.
Right. You're right.
We've been in every NFL draftee's house.
Yes, we have.
We've been
which was refreshing. Was refreshing. We like that, Deb, because you kind of see them in their surroundings. Guys are a little bit more comfortable. You see their families, the reaction of their families, which we wouldn't get. So I think the NFL hit it with that. I really do.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think it's not such a big deal. I mean, we used to hide all the time. Now we all have our Zoom shirts. We're good. We may be wearing shorts, but we have our Zoom shirts.
You're right. You got to make sure the background is picturesque.
The background's picturesque. Yes, absolutely. I got your old helmet back there. Where's that?
Yeah. So it's amazing. Yeah.
It is. And, I think we'll get back. One of the blogs on our website is all about the pandemic and how pandemics have hit, years and years. I mean, pandemics are nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
We will get back, but I think we will change. I think we learn from every pandemic. And, years ago, back when you and I were little, they had world fairs and they were talking about It's a Small World, and you can go see that, and the Carousel of the Future. And they talked about video calls.
Yes.
And that you could actually have a video call. And that was such a big deal. And now it's like, yeah, I do that 8 hours a day.
I'm tired of that. Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the technology is here now.
Yeah. It really is. And I do think the way people watch sports, how they view sports, because if you realize it was a struggle. I know the NFL had some problems with, getting fans to the stadium, because I got my big 50-inch TV here. I can enjoy it at home. The quality of the game, 4K, how they bring the quality of the game to you makes you feel like you're right inside of that TV living it. So technology, like you said, is only going to continue to get better at warp speed. So the NFL, these stadiums, these organizations are going to have to try to create ways or get creative with ways of engaging the fans so that they want to come out and spend the money on a Sunday afternoon to watch a football game.
Or alternatively, we go to hologram. So I'm in the football game
in
my living room with my 90-inch TV.
Oh, you taking it to a whole nother level.
Whole other level.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, that could very easily happen, that we start, as the technology changes, that we start seeing that. And I think this NFL media rights, I'm going to call it a media rights contract, really shows how much these rights are worth. It may not always be the stadium. I mean, there's going to be a select group of the public, and there's going to be a group that wants that atmosphere.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to put on your Miss Cleo hat.
Okay.
And I want to just ask you, with this new media deal that they just signed, the $110 billion deal, what do you think might be different in this deal? Because of the pandemic, do you think the media people, the broadcasters, you think they put anything different in this deal? Maybe because something that they've learned going through this pandemic that might be able to get them out of this. If we have to go through something else, do you think they might? I know, what's that clause you call maneuver?
The force majeure.
Yeah, I know that's probably still in there, but you think they might have added anything extra in there to protect themselves?
I would guess that they did try to protect themselves a bit, but I also think they've probably gone to hey, we can pivot at this point. What additional protection do they need? They're not going to send Lomas on an airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think of all the money they've saved.
Yeah.
So it becomes a really interesting deal from that standpoint. The NFL was able to get such a large deal. And then what's streaming and the media rights, like you said, Thursday Night Football is going to be different. We've got different players. It's not just a deal with ABC.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point there. That's a great point. You're right. It used to be CBS, ABC, and NBC. But you're right. That's a great point there. Yeah,
now we're selling, point. I mean, not only are we selling radio, I mean, you broadcast for the Lions for the radio, but we're selling streaming rights. We're selling cable rights. We're selling, Monday Night Football is a product in and of itself. And when we start talking about this, and then we start talking about all the fantasy games and everything else, that the rights we talked about the fact, even from the NHL, they're naming their divisions. They're selling, right? There's so much more to sell when you really think about it. And, football players are big. There's a lot of jersey room there.
Yeah. I do expect to see some company names or door because they're starting to do it in practices now. But I heard that we'll start seeing that more and more, during regular seasons, during the game. There'll be company names up there. So you're right about that. A lot more room than the NBA or any
A lot more
other
room.
sports.
Well,
Yeah.
NBA's tall.
Yeah.
It's just whether you go horizontal or vertical,
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And on that note, we could probably talk for hours, but we should probably say goodnight to everybody. Check us out on Sports Law. Check us out on SoundCloud, on Spotify. Look at our website. Love to have you. Love to hear some ideas on things you would like us to talk about, or some guests that you'd like us to get.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, we'll like that.
Yep.
Oh, and happy anniversary to Deb.
Happy anniversary to you too. Happy anniversary, Ray.
Yes, happy anniversary, Raymond.
Well, we're still live. We're still live. You guys want to talk?
Yeah, I'm glad we threw you in there. I'm glad you showed your face there, Raymond. So we say happy anniversary
that was good.
to you. Yeah. But that was a great point you made as far as all the competition from the stream, Amazon and all these other. Because I know Twitter. I think didn't they have games on Twitter last year? Or so you got Twitter,
Well, you can't control it anymore.
Was streaming on Twitch that was going to Twitter. That's when there was like a couple weeks they had 3 games on Thursday. Mm-hmm. They had one in the afternoon that night, and then they had like a late starting one. Yeah. I just know that it's totally different this year because of what's going on. And it's the new norm. Actually, it's like we're not going to get back the way things were I don't think for another 4 years, really.
Yeah,
I don't think you're ever going to get back to the way things were.
Yeah.
No, because I think what you're going to see is getting back somewhat to in person, but this technology is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you're ever going to see those big stadiums like down in Texas and all that being built anymore.
Yeah.
Because
that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Like the Raiders just built that phenomenal state-of-the-art stadium that, is it really going to get used to its full potential?
Yeah.
Is any of these stadiums going to be like, how's this going to sports like concerts and festivals?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
It's like everything. I mean, it's like crap. They're using Ford Field right now as a vaccination center.
Yeah.
Is that all is going to be good for? Like the Super Bowl, it was okay this year. I mean,
22,000 fans, and most of them were frontline workers. So.
They were mostly frontline workers.
Yeah,
but they had to be vaccinated and all that before they had to be in the stadium.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like you just can't have somebody buying a ticket and walking in.
Yeah,
that's the way this is. It's going to be like that for a long time, and like races, Grand Prix. People going to see NASCAR or Indy. How's the Indy for 500 going to be like? Is there anybody going to be up in the stands? That's how isn't that how the race industry works, Deb? I mean,
the racing industry. I mean, that's actually the largest spectator sport in the world. It's easy to get 200,000 fans at a racetrack because it's just so big.
Yeah.
Well, but the stands and the paddocks, how's that, with no fans in the stand, how is that infecting the sponsors. You need people to spend money on stuff.
Well, and I think that's a good point, because what we're seeing now is not even just the change in the stadiums and people going, but people are actually saying, I'd rather watch at home, which actually, interestingly, is what you and I were talking about exactly 1 year ago tonight, Lomas. I think we talked about the Jumbotron that Jerry Jones has.
Yep, exactly right. Exactly right.
Oh, it's like how we did the football games this year, Lomas. You know, you guys never left home. It's the same thing with, I was just, Tony Butler and myself went up north to Boeing for Frank Beckman's last show, and we talked about how he's doing the basketball tournament. They were doing it from the big house. They didn't travel with the team. Very few teams were traveling with them. Like, they had the studio there that they used for the television truck, and that's how they did everything. But other schools we're not doing it. They have the option of going down to Indy.
Well, the one guest we had, right?
MSU, Will Tiemann. He traveled with his team. So it's like everybody doesn't know, okay, what's wrong, what's right. Because there's a couple guys that, when I was doing the football, a pregame for MSU football, their engineer had to stay home because he was exposed to COVID-19. I mean, and then now we got all the variants coming out. How is that going to affect sports? How is it going to, isn't there the Olympics coming up soon?
Yeah, they've been talking.
And it's like they already postponed that. And it's like,
I think they're going to go ahead with the Olympics because they're going to give the vaccines to the athletes.
Right. Well, you see some of the teams are starting to do it now. Some of the professional teams are, that they're able to get the vaccine. So yeah, you're right.
And that's another show that we can actually, okay, how everybody was up in arms about these professional athletes. Okay, should you get the vaccine or the people that really need it?
Well, that's what we were talking about, the scarcity of medical resources. At this point, we don't have the scarcity.
Right.
And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. We might have too much from what they were saying with AstraZeneca. They were saying that they might be able to start selling that to other countries now because we might have more than enough. Yeah.
Good. Good.
Yeah, but
this is not just a U.S. problem. I really want to travel again.
You're right.
I don't travel, so I don't get it.
Yeah, but you're right. To be able to travel, you're right. Everybody, but that's where. Did you get a card, Deb, after you got your second vaccination? Did you get a card that said, so you held on to your card, right?
I held on to my card, and then I have the card that has both of them on there. Because that's going to be our proof, right? Isn't that going to be proof that you have to have? And like they say in some places now, you're going to have to start showing proof. I think even some of these airlines, they're saying that you're going to, Ray, I'll get mine Saturday. I'll have mine by Saturday. So your second one. Yeah,
my second shot is Saturday at 12 o'clock. So I'll have my card too to make sure that they know, because you're going to have proof. I think you're going to have to produce that.
Yep. They're talking about vaccine passports and everything.
Yeah.
In our industry, when we go into these businesses, us going into work, actually, because why I want to get vaccinated, because if I get sick, if I get our head engineer sick, we're only two there. It's like, and then you bring down the station. Now it's like there's some of the people don't want to come in to do their show. They want to stay at home.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that's my point, is while some people want to get back and go back to normal, there's a group that doesn't.
Yeah.
They're happy being home.
Yeah.
They're happy being able to say podcast from Mexico.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever happened on this
Yeah.
podcast.
that was a good one, Dale.
Thanks.
Let's do one for the Mackinac race when I'm
Yeah.
in the race.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be. I'd like to see that happen, Ray.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
could do
if
a
you
lot of this
want,
fun stuff.
Well, if
Yeah.
you want, it's like, since we all be vaccinated, I'll talk to the people at the Port Huron Yacht Club, and I can engineer one podcast before I head on a boat, and you guys can actually be there, and actually
That'd be
do
fun.
one
That
of the,
would be.
and we can do this. We can do this on StreamYard. Have one camera on us or two, and
Once I get vaccinated, we should. Yeah, we should plan on trying to get together and do something together.
Yep.
That would be nice.
And think I don't have to be there. I can engineer it still from home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of all the technology.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you guys can have your laptops with your microphones, and
I don't think we'll look like that, Raymond.
no one's as ugly as I am. So
no, I think that's a good idea. I still would like that. Well, that's right. I don't know why I keep thinking you're in person, Deb, with your classes. I don't know why I'm
completely virtual.
Completely
virtual.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to class.
Yeah. Oh,
Huge
yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
Huge
I
hit.
don't know why I keep thinking.
And did you bring an apple for the teacher?
No. No, a virtual apple I brought.
A virtual apple, yes.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
Yeah. So Ray, with us moving to 97.1.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we still live, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes, we
probably
are.
not. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Bye.